Hi everybody, and welcome to another of Britain's Hidden Histories live shows. So let me start then by giving an update as to Alan's condition. 2 days ago, Angie announced that Alan had been taken to hospital with a serious health concern. The family say, "We are so grateful for all the love and support we have received during this difficult time. Alan is physically progressing well, and we are hopeful that he will continue to improve. We would like to thank everyone for their prayers and well wishes. Alan is strong and determined, and we know that he will get through this. We appreciate your continued support and ask that you please keep Alan in your thoughts and prayers." And Angie would like to add, "We are all praying for Alan's speedy recovery. Please join us in sending him your love and support. Thank you." I know we've all been very concerned, but for his age, he's doing really well. So today we have Arnie playing a new violin piece, and also in the music corner we have the daughter of a Britain Hidden History member playing the piano as background to David Parker's photo montage from Ponty to Treforest and back. And later B. Parker will be singing from Clubberbont in the town. Our first video will be Ross Broadstock, Angie and the boys, and Tim Lewis at 1.Rhiwsaeson Hill Fort, the scene of the final battle in Keith Price's Saxon Marathon. And that's going to be followed by an interview with Rob Shaw. Over to you, Arnie, to kick us off. Well, that was a very nice one. He didn't give me the title of that one, but that was very nice and very well played. So keep them coming, Arnie. Thank you very much. So anybody from Canada who joins this evening, today, this morning in Canada, happy Mother's Day. It's Mother's Day in Canada. In the comments from the YouTube channel during the week, we had some very interesting points raised, ranging from congratulations to Arnie for the progress he is making, to talk about viruses and toxicity in the fallout of comets. Plenty of people make comments on the videos from the week before, and we do read them and do enjoy them. Sometimes we respond. So Peter WW said, Dr. Victor Klube, Dean of Astrophysics Department at Oxford University, in 1986 estimated that the comet of 562 had exploded with the force of 100,000 Hiroshima atomic bombs. It might have been 100 Hiroshima atomic bombs. Back in 1986, and he's saying it's a comet of presumably the 6th century. Hopefully it was 562. Ivan Wynne Williams says, finally, English academia is being dragged screaming and kicking into the light of the truth, and confirmation of this comet was depicted in the Ravenna mosaics generations ago. Great video, keep them coming. And there's a bit of Welsh then. I'm learning, but this might be beyond my miniature skills. Aver chog heddwch I pawb. So that's definitely peace to the people, and peace to the people. Dave Watson says, recent research indicates that the world suffered a cooling event circa 536 AD. Thanks to advances in technology, they were able to analyse ice core samples from an alpine glacier at a resolution of months or better. The work involved multidisciplinary collaboration by British and American experts. Their findings have been widely published in the light of accelerating climate change. So we need to have a look at that research. Thank you very much, Dave. I think it's been mentioned elsewhere, possibly by yourself, maybe on Facebook. And 536 versus 562, if 536 is right, and that's two different sources of scientific research saying 536, and we can't explain it maybe by the differences in the various datings of calendar datings, then maybe we should check our dating sources. Paul O'Donoghue said, when I was alerted to this live stream, I was directed to live show 133. Yeah, that's probably my mistake, Paul. It's the way the small pictures left in there. Anyway, to add, after I watched 133, something I read years ago, an ancient civilization was uncovered. The structures levelled to almost ground level. Skeletons were discovered alongside the remains and inside. So why were the bodies not being moved? No attempt after the disaster. And that was long ago to move them. I also came by an article, if I can find it again, in India, remains of ancient civilization discovered, and in the remains, skeletons were discovered. Why were they not buried again? Perhaps the area was too dangerous to go. And were these two events linked to the comet? David Hoops. Well, there's some irony. Cardiff University supports Wilson and Blackett's work. Well, it was perhaps the physics department. Shh, don't tell the history department. A very funny day. So plenty of comments in the YouTube channel behind the videos, after the videos have been aired. Well worth reading and well worth responding to. I don't think we have anyone officially responding, but keep your comments coming, as individual BHH supporters will comment, and this leads to interesting debate. As promised, here's the first video from Bethan Parker, that's BWE, performing her own composition, There and Back. Thank you, B. That was a beautiful piece and played exceptionally well too. And if there was any vibration, it was the way I've recorded it. So the actual piece is beautiful. And a great job on the photographs, Dad. And Di Parker gave us the permission to use his daughter's B's work. Thank you, Di. Di's photographs take us from Pontypridd to Treforest. And Meg in the chat has just said that it looked familiar. She recognised some parts. The photographs take us from Pontypridd to Treforest and back alongside the River Taff, a journey similarly followed by the remains of the Saxon invasion army in circa 551 AD and Arthur II's forces, who were either leading or were pushing them towards 1.Rhiwsaeson, according to our recent presentations by Keith Price, Bob Morgan and David Moseley. The photos show a different world now to then, but the landscape remains largely the same. There's the occasional quarry, and the motorways, of course, get in the way. Let's take a look at satellite maps of the area to find out exactly where 1.Rhiwsaeson is. Where in the world is 1.Rhiwsaeson? That little island by there, the one with Birmingham in the middle. We'll zoom in and we find Wales. Zoom in again. Keep zooming in. We just saw Pontypridd highlighted. It's near there. You can see Llantrisant highlighted. There's Llantwit Beddau, Llantrisant, Beddau, Pontypridd over here. This is a valley, flattish, and 1.Rhiwsaeson is of crossing in that area there. Interesting name of a pub, Caesar's Arms. There's the hamlet of Rhiwsaeson, and up there is the hill fort right under a field. There is the peak of it. So right under the view is the Rhiwsaeson hill fort. And then just up by here, the bottom of Bethan, Gwain Marsh. That's connected with the capture of somebody who's ended up in Berkeley Castle and executed. And that there is where the tumps were, the Bethan graves. Now a playing field, but there's a couple of tumps in the edge by there, still remaining. Coed y Muster, that's the name of a hotel, but Coed y Muster is the wood of mystery, connected with St. Icted, and where they interred the body of Arthur II in the cave in the Coed of Muster. Let's come out a little bit. So Keith Price is saying that the Saxons landed here, fought a battle at Taibach here, was pushed up the British trackway, or led up the British trackway. Some may have come over here, then they went up this way, through these valleys, Crainant, Cummer, that's where Pencastle is in that area. Baden's here, Hirwine is there, so they've come up this way. Hirwine heads the valley over, there we are, Hirwine over this, you can see the route. Clwyd Coed is the Cynnon Valley down here. That's the Cynnon Valley. Past Mountain Ash, Abercynnon, bridge over the Cynnon. Staying on the west bank of the Cynnon, the west bank of the Taff, down to Pontypridd, up the flat valley here, actually it's out this way, down the bank of the Taff this way, Church Village, Tontaig, to X marks the spot. Right by there. Conversely, in the walking it's suggested that they came from Baden, which is up here. There's Baden there. Straight over the vale to there. So which do you think is the most likely? Either battles way apart in time at Baden and then Rhiwsaeson, or the campaign that took you over, up and around, down and up. And here's the sort of area that we're talking in an old painting. I've forgotten who it's by. Now that location to me seems to be on what's known as the Graig Hill and it's almost by where the Roman marching camp is located. And the bridge in the centre of the picture there, the painting, is the old bridge at Pontypridd, built in the 1700s, called a Beautiful Bridge. But you can imagine that picture conveying what the topography looked like in 500 AD. It's got to be very similar. To the left, where you can see valleys coming down, that would be over this way. I think that's probably up towards the Rhondda Valley. So from Rhiwsaeson you could have gone up a very big mountainous hill called the Rhigos and come down that valley. But to get up the Rhigos is incredibly hard going. Even with a car, the car struggles. And the whole of the Rhondda Valley was reputedly just filled with trees. So the Cannon Valley maybe is a bit broader, would have been this one here, coming down from that direction. But instead of coming up this way, where the mountains hills are very steep, they would have taken this route behind these hills here and gone the flat way. And here's the bridge that we just saw in the painting in Pontypridd, right by here, right in the centre. Pontypridd. Interestingly, up here at Glencoch, there's a reputed battle in the Roman period up there. Over to the right here, over this common, this is Sangennydd Eglwysillyn Common. This is where the wind farms are going, over in this top of them hills by here. So we're saying that the Saxons pushed or led down here from the Cannon Valley, this side of the river, and they would have come all the way down over towards Tontaig. People may have heard the address in Tontaig where you get your Camerographics books from. Over here, if you have a look, you see a place called Castelli, which means castles. That's the location of Tarandysant in Baya, in these woods here somewhere. And that's what Ross was euphemistically calling the Snake Temple. It's located there. So we're saying now that the Saxons were pushed or shoved on this flat route here. It's a nice walk, that is. And take a look at the video we've just had of the music there and back, where Di Parker is giving us lots of photographs from this walk from Pontypridd by the bridge down to Tree Forest and back again. So the photographs were taken in that area, and in the 500s the march of the soldiers, both armies, was this way, up Tontaig, across here, ending there. Now the interesting thing about the hill fort at 1.Rhiwsaeson, and Ross mentions it in the video that he's done of the hill fort, he mentions chariots. Now I'm not sure about Arthur II in that era using chariots, but they did in the Roman era. And so could the hill fort there at 1.Rhiwsaeson be the Battle of Cleen that is mentioned, where either Caradog lost or it was a stalemate? Caradog may even have won, but from that point onwards Caradog left the area. And I say that because in this area here, above Llanharan, that area there is Mynydd y Gaea. Above Brynner, you go to park at Brynner and up the hill there to go up to St. Peter's Supermontum, which is probably over here. St. Peter's is in this area here, but that's another Gaia. Caia Caradog, the fortress of Caradog, is up here. So down by here we have Pontyclun, the bridge over the Clean. And what's the Clean? The Clean is a river. And where does it come from? It comes from Rhiwsaeson. It's a very short river. It runs from Rhiwsaeson over to Pontyclun. That's probably it there. It's hard to see where it is on without going in deeper. There's the river. That's the Clean. I'm not sure where it goes then, but it ends up at the bridge which they named the village after, Pontyclun. And then at Pontyclun, the Clean River joins the Ely River. And we can see that it's in this area here. Probably through these woods here. It's easy to see on the ground. And interestingly, when we find Miskin, which is down here, next to the River Ely is a Roman township and glorified marching camp, and the local historian said that next to the river, in the fields next to the river, maybe the little town held as many people as the modern town of Llantrisant, about 3,000 people. Here's an interesting one, the Castle Mynach. It's a pub, but it's called the Castle of the Monk. And is that because in this area, in Miskin Woods, was a monastery of the Arthurian era. If you read the books, you'll find out the significance of that particular monastery. Well, there we are then, a tour of the topography. Google Maps, wonderful. Well, there's a little bit more about the Roman era and that hill fort, because it's right above the River Clean, and you might have recalled that Caradog fought a battle of Clean. So was it the same place? I've cut it short there. It's not a lot more, but we're short of time tonight because the interviews that we have are quite long. As you can probably tell, I've bought into the campaign theory as opposed to single battles, and I support the 50-mile marathon route to Rhiwsaeson. But there are alternative versions, and in the Walking novel, Alan has Arthur being aged 15 and the Saxons coming across from over the River Severn by land. So there's quite a few rivers to cross, and Rhiwsaeson, as you saw from the satellite imagery, is the one side of Badon. So if Rhiwsaeson was the final battle, then the Battle of Badon must have taken place afterwards, a different battle. But we'll think about that another time. So the next up is Ross at the hill fort. And he's there with the family, Angie and the boys, and with Tim Lewis. And this video is on the BHH YouTube channel, and there's also a couple of others. And Ross in this video is bringing the walking big black book to life.
Beginning in the 6th century, on the Welsh throne, based in southeast Wales, in Esloig, Glamorgan and Gwent, is seen as weak. King Meirig, the Pendragon, the Uther Pendragon, the High General of the British, has been wounded. His hip has made him lame. He's become so lame he no longer sees himself able to lead the armies. It's by his will and his personal charisma that the British Empire, of all the kingdoms, is held together. What can he do? He hands over to his 15-year-old son, Arthur. Arthur is to become the new Uther Pendragon, the high commander of the British armies. He has to hold together these rival, bickering kings with their fierce tempers and pride and forge them into one army. It's considered impossible. The Saxons over in England get wind of this. They hear about the weakness and see this as their chance to deliver a fatal thrust right into the heart of the British Empire. And they gather all their tribes together into a massive army, rumoured to be 25,000 strong, to do a smash. This time, not a raid, not like a raid from previous generations. This was going to be a seek out and destroy mission right to the heart of the British Empire, right to the heart of South Wales, and destroy Arthur, the boy king, and his capital. The word gets out. They've even included British rulers that are still in what is now called England, in Lloegr. They're part of this alliance. Word reaches the British, and they have a whole winter, a whole 6 months to plan. And what planning they do? They get the armies gathered, they decide the policy. The Saxon army comes driving across the Severn, they get opposed, the army builds up, they get ready for a battle, the Welsh back away again. Their cavalry army is more mobile. They just send a few hundred. They block the way, another battle forms, everything stops, and they back away. It's one of the earliest examples of a scorched earth policy. There is nothing for the Saxons, nothing to forage. They get hungrier and hungrier, more desperate. Every river crossing, the Wye has to be crossed. They come across here, and eventually they start getting towards the heartland of South Wales. They fight a mighty battle at Bethan. For 2-3 days, they're smashing away at this small British force at the top of the hill, where the cavalry have dismounted, and they're going to hold them off. They're throwing stones. It's a pre-prepared position. The boulders are throwing, the stones are throwing. The Saxons are getting harder and harder. It's a small position. They can't bring their numbers to bear. Eventually, the British are tiring. They are only a small holding force, and ammunition is running low. In the middle of the night, they decide we're going to have to break out. So just before dawn, when the Saxons are spiteful sleeping, the cavalry storms down the hill, smashes its way through, and leads the Saxons on another merry dance. They've now gone almost a week without being able to get any fresh food. Water's difficult. They're fighting battle after battle, being dragged mile after mile. They're exhausted, they're tired, they desperately need this final battle. They come through the hills, they arrive, and they finally realise, they think they've got the British army cornered. They think that's it. That's all Arthur's managed to raise, is this 800 or so cavalry. Little do they know that the main British army of another 5,000-6,000 infantry is hiding at the top of the hill, ready to form this defence on this massive hill fort, with rings and rings of fortifications all the way up. This is what the British have been doing for the last 6-7 months, preparing the position. And as the tired and desperate and hungry Saxons come around the corner, think they finally trapped the British army for this final battle where they can destroy the boy king and take the kingdom and make Saxon rule, they look up and they realise actually they've been trapped. This is the battle the Welsh army has been waiting for. They look before them, they see the hill fort, which you can only see part of from here. They realise they've got to get all the way up there, past layer after layer after layer of fortification, and when they get to the top, then they've got a fresh army to fight. This is when they start to realise this invasion was not going to go to plan, and Arthur does not want them to escape back to England. He wants to kill every last one of them, and we're in a place called 1.Rhiwsaeson, which is the hill or the ridge of the Saxons, and this is where they were buried. And we're going to go up that hill fort, and you can see what the massive fortifications were the Saxons had to take on. So at the bottom of the hill, we just read that Alan Wilson account of the battle, and sure enough, here's the stream on the main thoroughfare up. And just pan round quickly. So that was seen to be the main way up onto the hill. I think that would have been the entrance way that the main arms are taken. But once you close the gates, it gets a bit more difficult. And if you think that's the hill, you haven't seen nothing yet, as they say. And here's the other side of the stream. Now passing underneath there. So the landmarks all fit. So to find this hill fort, it's marked on the maps, and you just follow the A473 bypass between Pontypridd and Llantrisant. There is a sign for 1.Rhiwsaeson, and if you follow that road, there's only one road, and eventually you'll see it. There's various footpaths and cycling places. It's great for a bit of countryside and to get outside. And if you look for that path, just park up somewhere and make your way to the top. Bring your own provisions. It's completely unspoilt countryside and it's really wonderful. And good exercise as much as anything. Yes, it's a great day out for the family. Get some exercise, learn some history, and have a fun time. There's the boys, there's Tim, Angie, and soon as we'll be having more group trips soon with Britain's Hidden History. Hope you can join us for those. All I recommend is bring some stout shoes. There is some climbing involved, some scrambling up some of these ramparts, so you need to be fairly agile, and take your rubbish home with you.
Actually, you can actually imagine, look at this, you can imagine if you've got enemy troops trying to mount an assault up here, right? They get up here and they're still funneled into a valley area.
It's like another layer on the fort, this bit.
Isn't it? Yeah.
It wouldn't just be an easy walk across, you'd be stuck here now, like a giant moat. The banks would be built up along here.
Yeah.
So there's another load of defenders that moved one further step up. So like my -2th type thing without the stones. You just fall back and up another level every time. And all the time the missiles are raining down on you. Stones, boulders, javelins, arrows. You probably haven't slept or eaten properly for days. And it's about this time of year, so the ground's not too bad. We had some rain here today, be able to push up. Fighting your whole way up. Shield over your head. Missiles raining down, raining down. Oh, it's quite steep actually. We'll probably see some more ramparts. Let's go look around so you can find traces. Here's another peak, and oh my goodness, there's another peak to go again. Telltale trees and big mound. That usually tells us something. Very suspicious along here. Okay, I'm here with Tim.
So we're standing here with...
There's the Garth, isn't it? Yeah.
We're just on the south side of... Where are we?
1.Rhiwsaeson.
Caira.
Oh, sorry, yeah, Carai. The fortifications, yes.
Just half a mile up the road from 1.Rhiwsaeson, if that. And over to your...
Well, there's 1.Rhiwsaeson there, isn't it? There's no distance.
Well, it's just the bottom of the road down there. We're looking at the western end of the Garth mountain to our east, which you can see there, and you can just see the one pimple, which is the western...
Oh, right, one of the mounds,
the westernmost mound on top of the Garth. And the main body of this camp sweeps round north of where we're standing now. And
what's he there to come through here, or where's the high point?
The high point is to your left. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. It's behind those trees on your left now. Just there, that's the high point up the top there. And this is a massive fortified enclosure of truly huge...
It is huge. I didn't realise we're actually...
the mountainside all the way round.
We're on it, aren't we? It's not where is it, we're on it.
Down to your left is particularly...
I'll just climb up here a bit. Yeah, so that's the kind of slope they're about to come up, and they describe it on in the walking. So presumably they've been down in that valley there, probably, isn't it? Or anywhere around, it's 360 degrees, isn't it?
It's 360.
Yeah, what a fabulous defensive spot. So even now, we're still not quite at the top. There's another layer to go. That's what they call this carai, as in castellations or the fortress. You can see Tim there, up he goes, another level again. Ah, it's soul destroying coming up here. And you have to remember the whole thing would have been ridges and ditches, lines of stakes, people chucking stones at you. And every time you think you've reached the top, there's another layer. And these overgrown areas, what you're seeing is more examples of the ditches and walls, which it's easier from above, but it's defended all the way up. That's what you have to realise. More walls, more ditches. Okay, so we're now about 2/3 of the way up. In the distance you can see a transmitter mast, which you think is a Hillary transmitter mast to get your bearings. Behind those hills is the Severn estuary, often referred to as the sea, but it's actually an estuary of the Severn. If you pan round, so it's not far from the Severn, you see, that's why it fits all the descriptions. Severn over there, and Cardiff a little bit round the corner. Like I said, that mound we could see earlier was Penarth, and in the distance, I'll try and zoom a little bit, you can see another headland. I hope you can, plus you get a better view from the top, because it's only 3/4 of the way up. These hill forts. You know, if you can see a shadow in the background, that's another headland going across there. So you get an idea how close the sea is. Well, the Severn estuary anyway. It's massive. Go further up, look at the views across there, all the way up the valley. We'll have a look in a second when that ends up. Up we go. And up again, here we go again. And you can see another line of fortifications, which is sort of marking the summit, hopefully, as we get towards the top of the fortress. And you can see, again, another line of defences. Up we go again. Up we go again. It's only got my second win now. You'll find that with these walks. If I got the first hill, oh, I can hardly breathe. Legs are killing everything. Keep going, you'll be all right. Push up the second. Start to get your breath after an hour or so, or half an hour. Wow. And now here's the other side. So in case you think you'll sneak around the back and take the easy way up. Good grief. Yeah. We're talking about Britain's hidden history. So hidden this is. Just get my bearings a second, but I was born basically and raised over there somewhere. And I've moved back and live over there somewhere still, or now again. After a gap of a couple of decades. I never knew this was here. And these new houses down here, let's get nearer and nearer to the hill. They don't realise probably, they got this out to the view from their bedroom window. So just to get your bearings a bit, up over the top of the hill, on the top now. Oh no, almost on the top, there's another layer I just saw. And there's the good old Garth again, our landmark. We've got the Orion star mounds as well. Wow. My new regular walk. So close to my home I never even realised. Is this the final hill up here, Tim?
Yeah.
This is the final bit. This will be the last chance. Last chance defence.
Penarth head over there.
Oh,
Just a little dip.
Oh, that's Penarth, is it?
I think so. Yeah.
So we got the River Severn down there.
Yep.
Which
And obviously you've got
the sea, as people seem to call it.
Clear communication, visual communication with the top of the Garth Mountain.
So that's what we're talking about with Penarth, with Fortress Glamorgan. Then we got Penarth,
Yeah.
which is the head of the Arth, or the head of the defences.
Yeah.
So we see a seaborne attack. The signal can go up. That can be seen then on with Garth, which is the main beacon point on the defences. And then you've got the various hills then where you could mount your defence.
I was just going to say, the Garth Mountain over there is 1,003 or 1,008, maybe 1,000 foot, 300 metres. This is about 200 metres, maybe a touch below.
So that's almost 700 feet, isn't it?
Yeah. So what we've got here, though, is that the defensibility of this position it's much steeper all the way around. It's got this huge ditch and mound, triple ditch and mound structure around nearly all of it. There's still formidable obstacles at hundreds and hundreds of years after they were made. So this must have been a pretty epic fortress in its day.
Well, the point is that the highest ground's over there, but it's not as defendable, the Garth, is it?
Yeah.
This is, like you say, it's probably 1.5, well, at least 1,000 years since anyone probably bothered working on these defences. I don't know if they used in medieval times.
So the other thing is, we looked down at Mount Baden. One at Baden?
Yes, yes.
And you had that area down there where you've got basically almost plains all the way around it, and I think that would be fantastic sort of defence area for harassing with your enemy with chariots and that sort of thing.
Just make their life miserable, really, isn't it? And on we go upwards again. The deceptive thing about these hill forts as well is that the sort of false horizons, where you keep thinking you're nearing the top, and there's a defensive line, there's a wall or a ditch, you battle your way through it, and then you think, hey, we're at the top, then, oh, there's another climb. And it's a lot steeper than it looks on the video, I can tell you. And as you finally get to the top, and you realise what a fantastic defensive position you've got this great flat area where you can muster your troops, you can tether your horses, you can make the camp, you can stay up here for ages, and you've got the view all the way around. No one's going to sneak up on you from anywhere. You can sleep peacefully, you can enjoy your food. And again, there's another perimeter guard in this, as you can see with a line of trees there. It's another ditch going all the way around, which you'll see in a minute. It's, even when you get this far, you still haven't broken into the fortress. It really is vast and quite remarkable. An example you call linear defences, where you keep falling back to another line of defence, and you've always got the high ground, you've always got the advantage. And as you can see all the way across. You can see the other signal beacons, you can follow progress. It's just the perfect defensive position. In some records, this is actually called Arthur's Castle. And it ties in with the butts. Hope you can see. So the poor old Saxons, we spent days and days and days and days, or Wessex maybe, but the invaders certainly spent days and days and days up and down these hills, fighting various minor engagements, every river crossing, ambushed during the night. No chance to forage. And then they finally corner the Welsh army, and they look up and see this massive, massive hill fort with fortifications at the top. And unbeknownst to them, another couple of thousand men hidden. And there's one place, Tim's points out, the armies could have been hidden. This whole top surface is a great size for encamping an army. And you've got this depression here, so like not exactly a valley, it's a low place. You have infantry ready to go, even cavalry, all saddled up, just waiting to pile out any direction across this hill. And just because shooting down these various wide walkways you've seen. You need them wide, because you want to use them for your cavalry and your chariots, you see. It's no good having all very narrow walkways for an army that's got a lot of cavalry and possibly even chariots in the, well, the earlier battles, Roman times. And who knows what they did later times. There's certainly cavalry. All the records talks about the heavy cavalry making their charges. So 400 or 500 cavalry fitting in, no problem. All ready to go. Pick your moment, pick your spot. You can walk around the battlements, see how it's going, and whoosh. There's some people to give you an idea of the scale of this. It's a perfect area to have as your, if you can imagine a camp, palisades, maybe even some buildings. tents. This would be your base. See over there, there's the garth. What a spot, what a spot.
I was saying that some of this area, there's a flat steep area to the south there, and you don't actually need this triple ditch and mound system out there, because it is so steep that the enemy's got a real big problem getting up there anyway.
Just to show the other side, it's facing east, I guess. The ditch continues all the way around. Amazing, look how high up we are. Fantastic.
That's it, Ynys not the one right in front of you, the one on the horizon.
Yeah, that's Ynys Madi, the large hill over there.
Yeah.
And then we can see those thinking wind turbines. If you realise when you get up on the hills, I say this often, I know, but it's only when you're up on the hills, you have to get and walk, that this all comes to life. And you can really see how it works, because when you're down in the valleys on the roads, for a start, you forget how close you are to the sea, and the Severn's only just a few miles that way. You don't feel like you're near the coast. You don't feel like you're in a vast, almost wilderness of these great hills. And you can see here across, this forms the whole fortress, 360 degrees all the way around. I guess you have a final little hill there. And we found the fortifications. Yeah, Tim was a little bit too far from the mic to hear him clearly here. What he's demonstrating is how large these ditches are. And this is after at least 1,000 years, you know, of slowly filling up with the foliage dying and all that kind of stuff. And it's still, he's a good 8 feet below where I'm standing. And that's after having worked your way through 2-3 layers of defence already and up this huge mountain to get near the top. Or huge hill, not technically a mountain, but it feels like one. And again, you've got to come up, and you can see there's clear signs this is a proper manufactured ditch. It goes all the way around. There's no way that could be some sort of natural feature.
You got one.
Right, here we go, fortifications, yes.
Imagine how deep this would have been.
Yes, yes.
Okay. You've got a huge cliff here.
Yes. Hang on a second, let's have a proper look at this, look. This is what we're looking for. Hang on a second, Tim. Ramparts, look at the size of this ditch.
So here, a massive double rampart.
Another double rampart, yeah.
Double ditch. If you come down this way, it turns into a triple one.
These are the kind of ditches. It's been a nightmare to get up. Tired, hungry, battered all the way up. It's been a very depressing sight.
In fact, they had 2 ditches. Take here. In fact, you've got 3 mounds.
Yes, yes.
A mound here. And a mound here.
And these would have gone all the way around, probably. They've been levelled off, haven't they?
They're big ones, yeah?
These haven't bothered to level this off. Look at the size of that. Whew. That's the way it would work. We'd be standing up here on our rampart. Pointed stakes, blockades, all the way down here. There's a ditch down the bottom, probably something nasty in that. So any enemy, you've got to clamber up this long hill under missile fire the whole way. As you get near, you've got to climb over what would have been a bank there, down into the ditch. And as they're clambering up, we're stabbing down with our spears and throwing stones and generally making life miserable for them. And at some point, when the command decides if somehow, sheer weight of numbers, they manage to break their way up, that's the point then. You say, right, fall back 1 layer. And then you go back, and then you go up, and repeat the whole exercise again, the next layer up. And then amazingly, there's yet another layer to go. I've lost count, probably the 5th layer altogether. So you just imagine the difficulty of getting up there. What a fantastic fort, and it's 360 degrees. And to me it seems exactly like what is described in Arthur the Walking Book. Fantastic. And on the other side, we'll hopefully be able to see Mount of Bethan, where they fought before they came here. Yeah, so look at the military side of this. You can imagine these, that's another, to give you an idea of the sheer scale of these. That's another line of ditches. And you need the wide area. See, that path is wide like a road. So if you've got cavalry, or further back even chariots, you don't want a narrow track. You want to be able to go round and round. So what we're looking for now is tactically, Arnie just made a good point. How would you get down there? You wouldn't want to ride your horses down this steep bank, would you? So there's got to be an entrance somewhere to all this, and I'm guessing it's the way we came up. And there's got to be a shallower entrance, and that's basically the way we came up that way. I would think you have to take horses that way, Tim.
Okay. Yeah.
You pretty much have to go that way, the way we came in and out.
Yep.
So that's probably why it's got the extra big ditches and ramparts and extra, because that would have been the shallowest way in, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And presumably, if we carried on looking, there'd be another one. So you've got two ways out. So you can come around the back if the press gets a bit too steep, you know, it gets hard going here. That's fabulous. I've never heard anyone talk about this. I mean, it is on the maps. It's not another example of what we call Britain's hidden history, hidden in plain view, isn't it? I mean, it's not hidden at all, really. It's only hidden by the lack of publicity and knowledge about it, isn't it? And it's just worth it for the walk. You know, just come for the walk. It's fantastic. Where, isn't it?
I think we came up through here.
That's a possible track down, isn't it? You could ride down there, I reckon.
Narrow though. This is where we can have a
Yeah, we
few
can't-
hundred people.
Presumably, yeah.
Daddy,
You could
Yes.
fit two if you
did
squat.
you guys talk about like the mountains with the stones in them? Like filled
Oh,
with stones. Tons of
Oh, you're right. Yeah, this is some sort of wall here, Tim, look.
Yep.
Good spot, Zav. Well done, Zav, Leon. Yeah, this is some sort of wall here. And as usual, wherever there's a wall in Wales and there's a chance of some archaeology, they put trees in it. And as always, their roots will be wrecking it. Well, I come around the bottom of that and have a look. So there's definitely a proper wide path going up to the top. And that's what we're just looking at it there. Looks like there's a stone wall there. I think maybe they had stone at the bottom and palisade at the top. You can see a clear ridge of stone going all the way around there. What a tough place to get into. And that seems to be part of the fortress, with this being the giant ditch which you could ride through to either trap the enemy or use as a mobile defence. Or possibly a grave mound. It's pretty big. We do some archaeology around here or here. Quite tragic, really. Think of thousands and thousands hacked and chopped and pierced, bashed over the head with heavy things, trampled to death, executed. Must have been horrific. It's so peace and tranquil up here now. You know, I just saw a butterfly flicker past, there's birds. Beautiful countryside. But for a few days, at least once in history, this was a scene of dreadful carnage. On the way down, here's definitely a candidate for a grave mound. See, you've got a stone on the top, and as usual, the trees planted on it. Classic burial mound. It's quite small, so that could well be a noble or something, someone trying to get to the top of the hill, or a defender. It's got a fantastic view. So there's the mound from the other side. Very interesting stone there. It kind of looks natural, but got the big breaks and everything. Looks like it's been put there or toppled over or something. I mean, possible it could have been a stone cairn at some point, a real monument for fallen warriors, something like that. Or it could just be a rock sticking out the ground. Be great to know, wouldn't it? So again, if we're going to be buried somewhere, it's not a bad spot. All the way down to the Severn and the invasion routes. Fantastic.
But this bit down here looks like it's part of a wall. And
Yeah.
there's stone debris going around there.
Yeah.
And then over this side here, you again have got a wall. So this might have been an entranceway here.
Well, I think the wall goes all the way up.
And the wall goes all the way up, yeah.
Because that's what we were discussing, wasn't it? There's got to be a way of getting your army in and out.
Yeah.
So as you come back down the hill towards the bottom, I know, potential burial mounds around. But the story goes then, the now battered and beleaguered Saxon army, starving, beaten, exhausted, trying to flee, but they're not being allowed to return home. They've been constantly pursued and harassed by cavalry and archers. And at some point, they must have stood and just said, right, this is where we're going to have to stand and die. And this area around here, this village, is a village of 1.Rhiwsaeson, which is reported to refer to that event. You can hear the birds, very peaceful. Final resting place for army reputed to have started with 25,000 and hardly any returning home.
Thank you, Tim, for your expert knowledge displayed in the video, and of course thanks to Ross. A wonderful presentation, and Tim and Ross made more video content at 1.Rhiwsaeson along with Rob Shaw. And Ross also read from the War King in another video, and these are all to be found in the playlists. So Ross described exactly where the hill fort was, just off the A473, part of the new bypass, and it's where the old road was as well. And if you go round from the roundabout off the A473 towards the hamlet of 1.Rhiwsaeson, you see a big tourist board on the right hand side, and that tourist board only describes that this pathway was part of the pilgrims route from Penrhys to Llandaff Cathedral. Nothing whatsoever about any potential battle at that hill fort. And as I said in the video that I did with the satellite imagery, the part that I haven't played tonight, I'm talking about the River Clean rising from 1.Rhiwsaeson and just moving a couple of miles, hardly anything, down to Pontyclean from that spot, from that very same spot. Some of those brooks probably ran into and formed River Clean.
So the Saxon army has now spent at least a week in Wales. They come over the Severn, probably over there somewhere. They've hit the crossing. They've been dragged around the different valleys, onto different hills. They've fought battles at every river crossing, every hill they've come to fight. They got themselves all ready, then the army just marched away. Well, finally, they got Bethan, further back that way, where they fought a colossal 2-3 day battle, where they forced their way up the hill. They finally ground down the British defenders who've been hurling stones at them, missiles, making life absolute misery as they've been climbing up layer after layer and through rampart after rampart. So they're finally getting ready to the point where the ammunition's exhausted and the cavalry force, which has been fighting on foot, will be exhausted. And at that point, the British cavalry's come thundering out in the middle of the night, probably about dawn, broken through, and come this way, leading the Saxon army following them. We think this is their final chance for a showdown. So when they come around the corner, and they see the size of this, and we're sitting now on the summit, which is huge, and all the way around it, there's massive ditches. On the easier accessible sides of the hill, triple or double or even triple ditches and battlements. And you see videos I'm putting up on that. An absolutely colossal, daunting sight. And And the Saxons, what are they going to do? There's nowhere they can go now. This is their last chance. So I'm going to pick it up from Arthur the War King by Wilson and Blackett. It's a great sort of novelised account of this. Page 142. Young Colred pressed forward to get a good look at the British fortress. Like many of the others in the Saxon army, he was amazed at the sheer size of it. The stockade walls enclosed an area of at least 20 acres, and the 3 sets of ditches and walls set one inside the other looked daunting. His uncle Icnar was muttering, "I knew it! I knew it!" and shaking his head in bewilderment. The British were clearly prepared for the Saxon invasion, and Colred realised that they must have intended fighting here at this place all along. He marvelled at the people who had planned a battle months before it actually happened. New orders were given to set up camp, and the Saxons began to organise themselves and to eat what was left of their meagre rations. The Saxon army had run out of food. Small groups of men who had gone off foraging came back empty-handed. Most came running, having been attacked by separate strong bands of British horsemen. It was clearly useless to send out even bands of several hundred to look for food, as they would be attacked, and foraging was never worthwhile, unless done by many small bands able to search many different places. There was a realisation throughout the entire Saxon army that it would have to attack the hill fortress immediately. There was no point in attempting to surround the hill, as it was too large to do so effectively, and the main objective was to break into the place. Men were set to cut down small trees to make crude ladders, and the Saxon army prepared itself to attack the hill fort. High up on the stockade walls of the fort, which is where we are now, the British kings gazed down at the Saxon army spread beneath them. The view from the hill was panoramic, and south beyond them lay the plains of the King's Cantrev, and beyond in the distance the sea. To the east and the west and the north were hills, for this hill commanded the gateway to the valleys and glens of the kingdom. "Well, we've got them here at last," said Prince Morgan. "Oh, there's still a lot of them." King Gwynthew laughed. "It won't make any difference, Morgan. They've got nothing to eat, and they can't last that long. They have to pack up and go home." Young King Arthur's face became black with rage, showing rare emotion. "They can all go to hell, but they're not going home. They came to kill and destroy us. We will do to them exactly what they came to do to us. I intend to show them what I mean by war." Arthur finished speaking, and Morgan looked solemnly at his nephew. "They probably know that, and they will be absolutely determined to break into this place. We have to make sure that they do not." King Bruchen spoke for the first time. "They don't know that we have an extra 4,000 foot soldiers in here, and we've had a good chance of beating them in any form of fight. There may be over 20,000 of them, but there are 7,000 of us. If we had not placed garrisons in the 3 stone-walled towns, we could have met them in the open." "I do not want a victory where most of our army is also destroyed," replied Arthur. "I want to destroy them and preserve our army intact. We hold all the advantages on this hill, and we shall remain here until we have reduced them to a state of a pig ready for slaughter." Morgan nodded agreement. "We'll take advantage of their difficulties. If they group close together to try and break through, they are sitting ducks and missiles, and we can concentrate on that point to stop them. If they spread out to probe all round the hill to avoid missiles, then we can send the cavalry out to slaughter them. Scattered infantry are defenceless." The kings broke up their meeting. Each would take a part in the defences of their fort as his own responsibility. Their spearmen and archers lined the wooden walls, and inside the central area at the top of the hill, the horse herd was tethered in lines. Grooms were attending to the animals and feeding them, and the cooks were preparing meals for the men. Others are running last-minute checks on the supplies of stone missiles and other details. The young king walked back to the place where his personal tent stood behind the third wall. His uncles and cousins accompanied him, and when they'd arrived at the tent, they found Bishop Dyfrig waiting for them with some of his monks. The bishop had been as good as his word, and he had been waiting at the hill fortress with the infantry to join the army when they arrived. "I thought it best that I stay out of the way until you had made your arrangements," said the bishop. "Pray God will grant us the victory," replied King Arthur quietly. We will do all that men can do. Our monks will grant us the victory, said the bishop confidently, and he turned and beckoned to his monks, who brought forward a shield and handed it to the bishop. I have had this shield made for you, Arthur. Carry it with you in the battle, and no harm shall come to you. The protection of the Holy Mary, the Mother of Jesus, the chosen one of God, will be with you. The kings looked curiously at the shield, on which was a painting of a woman with a sunburst halo around her head and stars painted around it. The painting was obviously one of the Holy Mary, and none of them had ever seen anything like it before. Their shields were emblazoned with bulls' heads, boars, eagles, ravens, lions, and other valiant creatures. No one had seen a shield with a holy picture of a woman upon it. The significance of the shield was not lost upon Arthur, who was aware that Dyfrig was honouring his promise to support him as paramount king. I thank you for this wonderful gift, cousin Dyfrig. I will carry the shield in battle, and God and Mary will grant us their victory. I think we should eat now, quickly, while we have the chance. I ask you to pray for the army. They all sat down quietly around the fire, and the cooks brought the bread and meat and beer, and the bishop blessed the food as usual. The attendant bards who accompanied the kings everywhere, including fighting at their sides in battles, played on their instruments and sang, and the music spread and was heard all over the hill. When the meal was finished, King Arthur, followed by Bishop Dyfrig, and the other kings and princes and the monks, made a procession round the outer walls of the fortress. The king carried his new shield, and behind him came his standard-bearer with a dragon banner, and alongside him were the bishop and a monk carrying a golden cross on a long pole. The procession made a profound impact upon the deeply superstitious minds of the British soldiers and raised their morale to the point of absolute confidence. Down below, the Saxons had been completely astonished to hear music being played, and now they could see some form of procession going round the fortress on the hilltop. Like all people of the Dark Ages, they believed in magic without question, and the word soon spread that the British were placing magical enchantments around their fortress. The Saxon leaders began to mock and ridicule this, and went about explaining that it was a sign of British fear and a last resort before defeat. Then suddenly everything was ready, and the Saxon kings and earls were leading their men in solid groups up the southern slopes of the hill. Unit after unit of the Saxon army forded the stream at the bottom of the hill and began the long climb up the slopes. The whole of the British army at the top of the hill was immediately alerted to the Saxon movements, and they stood crowding the rampart walls, watching their enemies come slowly up the hill. When the Saxons came close to the huge mound walls with their wooden stockades on top, they were met with the anticipated shower of missiles. A deep ditch had been dug all around the hill in front of the outer wall, and the Saxons were hopelessly exposed once they had come into the ditch to try to climb the walls. Hundreds died as they attempted the impossible task of getting down into the ditch and then climbing up the British walls. The scaling ladders were thrown down by the British defenders, and the battle soon developed into a stalemate, with the Saxon archers standing back with their longbows, trying to pick off the British defenders, and the British warding off their arrows with their shields and hurling stones downwards. All the while, British bowmen took their time and picked off Saxons when the opportunity arose. All along a front of about 200 yards, Saxons tried to force their way across the ditch to try to climb the wooden walls. The battle dragged on all day, and again the Saxons came back with bulldog courage and determination and tried to get at the British walls. The situation became worse from the attackers when it began to rain, and they slipped more often on the muddy slopes of the hill and in the steep banks of the ditch. Finally, the Saxon kings decided that no more could be done, and slowly the Saxon army retreated down the hill, carrying their wounded as they went. The first day of the battle was over. Over 2,000 Saxon warriors had been killed or wounded, and they had not succeeded in breaking through the British defences.